That's the way. I still see the X. Oh, I just made a giant masterpiece for all the greatest world newspaper nerds.
All right.
I would not like routines here or there. I would not like routines anywhere. Welcome to episode 380 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 25th of November, 2020, and featuring Horror of Fang Rock, written by Terrence Dix, and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor and Louise Jameson as Leela. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and I'll just go ahead and say Happy Thanksgiving now, 14 minutes ahead. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
I'm making a full tomorrow.
Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm drinking Jolly Good.
And Thomas Fireheart.
I've been made aware that in Animal Crossing, an actual turkey is the one who cooks stuff on Turkey Day.
Ha-ha!
Oh,
Wow,
I'm delicious.
that so reminds me of a Far Side comic where you see a cow cooking burgers on a grill. And two other cows looking at him, one of which going, "You're sick, Jesse, sick, sick, sick."
Actually, it reminds me of Hitchhiker's Guide. Perhaps you'd like a little of my thigh. It'll be delicious and tender.
Yeah, I'll stick with my Dragon Ball Z abridged reference. Well, I'm also
Which
making a full
was actually a Dr. Seuss reference, but
The I'm delicious.
oh, that.
Oh no, the opening I did Dr. Seuss because the routine is a green egg yolk. But I'm also doing a full Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow, except it's just for me, so there's no full turkey, just
there's
just
no-
a couple pounds of turkey.
Yeah, there's no full turkey here, just a 3-pound turkey breast.
Oh, we're
What
cooking
I
a
am-
full turkey, but we're not eating till Friday.
What I am doing is baking my own sweet potato pie for the first time.
Nah, we got store-bought pumpkin pie because I really did not want to go through all that hassle.
See, we get one of each. My mom makes one, and we buy a store-bought one at the same time.
Normally, what would happen is, Thanksgiving with my mother's family, my mother would bake a pumpkin pie and an apple pie. And I would have a slice of each, but no.
My mother's homemade one now includes cream cheese.
To the pumpkin or the... No. That is an abomination against pumpkin.
Believe me, I've resisted for a good many years myself.
I will put cream cheese in my mashed potatoes. I will not put it in my pumpkin pie.
I would have to try. Like, I'm not a person that swears by pumpkin pie, but I've had pumpkin muffins that had cream cheese.
No, I've heard of these. The pumpkin like cream cheese. It's almost like making a pumpkin cheesecake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's still an abomination to mankind. I'm a pumpkin purist, okay?
Again, I say so was I.
You do not mess with my pumpkin pie. And I almost sounded like Cartman there. Don't mess with my pumpkin pie. Eh.
And your cheese poofs.
No, we're not having those for Thanksgiving. Anyway, how's everybody's week been?
Well, yesterday I had to go in on my day off to see like a trainer for something. And the way my boss worded it last week was, "Hey, can you come in between like 2:30 and 3:30 in the afternoon so like to see them?" But the way it was worded was so vague that I just thought it was, "Oh, so I'm coming in to have a chat or something?" No. Turned out that I had to actually be there by 2:30, even though the email had said just show up anywhere between this hour. And that I had to do something that ended up taking like an hour or two.
Hmm.
And this guy had to leave immediately after finishing with me because he had a flight to catch at like 5:30 or something. So it was like, oh fucking hell. Like if I'd
Couldn't
known
last
that I
minute
had
this
to be
hard or
there,
whatever this plan was.
it's like it would have been nice to have known this last week. uh,
We need you here between 2 and 4. You know, that kind of statement would have been better than any time between 2 and 3:30. Whatever.
And I think it's probably, well, I don't actually, yeah, Australia, if anything, is most countries are more progressive than the US when it comes to labor laws. But I know sometimes you say that just because you can't really dictate on somebody's day off when they have to get there. And it's a good way.
Mhm.
It's a way to stop them from just being like, yeah, fuck you, and pretending they didn't read the message.
Yeah, because there was like a thing of specifically him asking me, "Can you actually show up?" Um, so if like I'd had plans, I could have just said, "Well, no, I've got plans that day" or something. But I didn't, so I replied and was like, "Yeah, I can show up on that day." But yeah, but again, it was like there was the only follow up was just like thanks, and that's it. It wasn't like, "Oh, actually, you need to be there at 2:30," not like anywhere between 2:30 and 3:30. Like fucking hell.
That's weird. Oh,
So, as anybody that watches our live streams know, I've been having the weirdest internet problems.
oh yeah. Those have been getting annoying lately.
The thing is, I can't lock it down because nothing I think of that's causing it makes sense. It's like it can't be the router. If it was, it would be happening more often when we're doing heavy activity like streaming,
Yeah.
but it's only happening on this one game, on this one day, at this one time.
Yeah,
And it
that's
can't
the
be.
thing too. I've been noticing that it's only been Borderlands. It's always been when we're about an hour in, and it's been happening for. It's been actually been happening more and more frequently. It didn't happen as much originally, but it has been becoming more frequent.
It's like every Tuesday at like 1:05 p.m.
Oh,
our
dude,
internet
this time
suddenly.
it's. Oh, actually, no. No. I guess we didn't have a hiccup on Thursday, did we?
No, we got through the stream on Thursday, but
Yeah, that's weird. It's
Tuesday,
happening every Tuesday now.
yeah,
It used to be happening almost every Thursday.
and now it's every Tuesday. And it can't be our ISP because we have a gamer that's with us that lives down the hall, and he's not having the issue. So that kind of throws out the ISP. And it can't be the game because, as Matt just said, we played the same game 2 days later, and it
On
went
that
fine.
Thursday, it was fine. We got through
Yeah,
the whole hour and a half.
it's just weird. Doing tech support is you eliminate what it can't be, and then focus on what's left.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left. And it's driving me absolutely insane.
because it's got to be one thing or another. Although I'm of the, it's hard to say. God, yeah, I would almost say it should be the game, but at the same time, it doesn't happen every time. But
No.
but it does only happen with the game.
Yeah. It's just, and Aaron's just like, come on, can you fix this? I'm like, no!
They're still fixing it. There's nothing to fix.
I spent 3 hours trying to lock this down on Tuesday, and eventually I had to take a nap because my head was swimming so much that it was just like, I was just so frustrated. I had to just stop because I would start breaking stuff eventually.
I will say, though, that if we get into Borderlands 2 and this issue keeps repeating, I am of the opinion that I'm just giving up on multiplayer with you guys with Borderlands. I don't want to, but if I have to progress, I will.
Anybody else have anything interesting happen this week?
Oh.
I guess apart from that, yesterday, after I got home, I've been bugging my parents to try and make a plan for when certain areas of the house were going to be cleaned out so shit could be reorganized. And I just finally hit that bit of like, both, I'm not doing anything at the moment, fuck it, dragged my mum in there, and we're like, okay, we're just getting all the shit out of this room now, and you can sort through it later for all I care. And then, like, after everything was pulled out, I vacuumed it and all that. And surprisingly, it wasn't until after I was finished vacuuming that my sinuses decided to go nuts.
Oh, that's always for me too, because after you're done vacuuming is when the dust is in the air, and then as it starts to settle is when it starts to hit your ass.
Yeah, Aaron vacuumed this weekend, and my sinuses have been playing hell with me ever since.
I've been having, well, outside of even the stress with Randy and company, my single player game has been pretty, how to say it? The game has suddenly hit a brick wall in difficulty, and it's been me sitting here going, okay, I'm glad I have the option to level grind, but there's not many levels to grind in this game, so what do I do if I level grind and I still hit a brick wall? Just gotta cross my fingers and hope that my characters become more useful. But otherwise, in other matters in real life, my grandmother has been a yo-yo of material going on lately. So I believe one, if not more of you, know that she had a stroke.
I remember you telling me that. I don't remember if that was on the last podcast, but yeah.
I think it was, because I remember it coming up.
Okay.
So I must have mentioned it last time. So she's had a stroke. She was paralyzed in her entire left side. It's been slowly coming back to her, apparently.
Yeah, that happens. That
yeah,
happens with strokes.
Yeah.
She was able to originally swallow, then suddenly for a day or two she wasn't able to swallow. They were talking about putting a tube down her throat, to which she suddenly realized, oh wait, I don't want that. But then when they told her the other option is to let her slowly starve to death while giving her an IV feed, and she's just like, oh, that's even worse. Taking it very melancholy in stride, and like not being overly over the top reactive to it, just suddenly going, oh wait, no, that's worse. And apparently she's gotten to the point on her own where she can properly swallow food again. And they almost decided to send her to a different place where she was going to continue therapy and stuff, even though they had made plans for her to go to another place. So my family had to last minute kick in and go, what are you doing? You're not moving her there. We're moving her here. And they're going to be moving her to a facility where not only is one of her friends living at right now too, but also where one of my cousins work. So she'll have a friend and family nearby when she's there.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, when my great-grandmother had to go into assisted living, they had to move her clear up to La Crosse, where she had family in the city, but there was nobody she knew there. There was nothing. She was pretty much isolated except for the one family that was there. it wasn't the best idea.
No. But yeah, hopefully this move will be an improvement, and they'll hopefully get her on her diet. She's supposed to be going on a diet because she's had other issues before this whole stroke thing happened. And hopefully therapy, which is the main reason she's moving to this facility now, is also going to go well. We'll see.
All right.
But yeah, I guess that's most of it, and except for stuff that'll be coming up later.
All right. So on tonight's show, we've got some news, we've got birthdays, we've got a bit of geek talk, which we're going to try to get through as fast as possible. And then our episode review, our final thoughts, our summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings.
Yeah, enacting 5-minute clock for each geek talk item because we got quite a bit of it.
Yep. So, first up is birthdays. We've got two that were on November 19th. The first of which is Catherine Kelly, who played Miss Quill in Class. She turned 41. The same day is also the birthday of William Russell, who played Ian Chesterton from 1963 to 65. He turned 96. You hear that, BBC? He's 96 years old.
Get him on the show while you can, you pricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 days later is the 21st, and that's the birthday of Malcolm Hulk, writer from 69 to 74. He would have been 96 as well, but died in 1979 at 54. Also, the same day is the birthday of Paul McGann. Wait, didn't we have Paul McGann last week? Is that a double?
I was beginning to question that. I thought that we had him, but I was just
Yeah, I
I
think he
just
was
chalked out to,
last
I
week.
must be having that whole, like, deja vu thing again. Because it's happened to me before.
Yeah, but I had it, so that must have been something that didn't get
So it must have
deleted.
been left over. Yep. Shame.
Yeah,
Scratch that, ignore it.
that was last week.
All right, so then we move forward to the 23rd, and that's the birthday of Michelle Gomez, who played Missy from 2014 to 2017, the female master. She turned 54. And then finally today is the birthday of Sophie Hopkins, who played April in Class, so 2 Class birthdays this week. She turned 30. So there you go. Happy birthday, Catherine, William, Malcolm, Michelle, and Sophie.
Wow, I'm like, God, like a couple weeks older than Sophie Hopkins, apparently. Then
I'm 4 years and 2 months older than her.
And mind you, she was in a show, about
13.
5
months
years
older.
ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 years ago, playing a young teenager who was advanced into high school. Think about that.
So she would have been mid-20s then.
Yeah. She would have been 25. That was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. And our big news this week. It has now been confirmed by the BBC that John Barrowman will be returning in Revolution of the Daleks. And in more than just a cameo. Jack Harkness will be the one leading the companions against the Daleks while the Doctor is indisposed, i.e. in jail. For how long and how successful is yet unknown, but considering Jack's history with the Daleks, there's no one better qualified on this planet.
I guess that answers the worry that I can remember coming up before when it was sort of made clear that, or the implication was that the companions were going to be fighting the Daleks on their own. It's like, oh, well, they're not now, so
At least they've got Jack.
Yep.
yeah. So the Daleks don't have to look too bad if they're being held off by
Look,
the
to
companions.
be fair, the last time that the Daleks faced off against a team led by Jack, I'm pretty sure the best thing he could do was freeze time and then hope for a painless death.
Yeah, but that was also a mass invasion.
And an understaffed Torchwood.
And an understaffed Torchwood. But, if he's dealing with like a Dalek squad, that might be more his alley.
Not to mention, if he's in the front of that, it doesn't matter how many times they shoot him down, he'll get back up.
Well, yeah, that's always been the case, but what they're referring to is the end of series 4, Journey's End, where Jack's just like, oh, we're dead. Because at that point, there were like millions of Daleks, and he's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But if you're dealing with a Dalek task force, which is maybe a dozen Daleks at the most, Jack might be able to handle that.
Depends on how well he's armed at the time.
Yes. Speaking of Daleks, Daleks Episode 2 hit the internet last Thursday. I've seen it. I think everybody's here has seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll take a brief time to discuss it. Bill?
Oh, the dice choose me.
Yeah.
So the biggest impression that I got.
That's going to be the review order tonight.
Oh, fun. The biggest impression I got from it was that the robot in this episode kind of seemed like he was transplanted from a Star Wars cartoon.
Yeah,
I don't think we've seen such an
Yeah.
animated robot of any sort in Doctor Who very much.
Well, again, that's because Doctor Who is 90% live action.
Usually.
True.
So normally when they have a robot in a robot costume. This being animation, they didn't have to worry about that, so they had more of a droid feel.
I will say I did not see the twist coming far ahead of time. I did kind of a moment before they said things. I started to think that the little robot was the one that they were calling Emperor. So actually even that was incorrect. So I think they could caught me off my feet at least a bit. And I think the special effects at the end were a little over the top, but I guess they were probably intended to be over the top. So overall, I would say I didn't like this one quite as much as the last one. I thought the last one was a little bit more clever, but it wasn't bad. And I don't think we're actually rating these in any way, right?
No, we're not. We're just discussing it. All right, Thomas.
I found it interesting. I guess it's curious as to whether I think it was better than the first one or not now that I've seen that as well. I guess I was just, if I was more intrigued by this, it was just I'm more intrigued of where they're going with this from this one, just because the whole making it a lot clearer, or like being a lot less coy about the fact that the strategist, it is Davros. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think they're hinting at that a lot more.
Yeah, in this one. And I guess the funny thing is when Bill brought up the design of that little robot in there, the first thing that came to mind now was one of the robots from Futurama that has a similar head, like the one that's like friends with Bender or whatever, who has like oh no, I mean, it's in like maybe in like a mental hospital or something.
Yeah,
that, like,
it's the Psycho one. I can't remember its name.
Yeah, neither can I. But it's like it just occurred to me. Oh my god, that's the exact same head as that robot, or at
Not
least
exact,
very
but
similar
close.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it was kind of interesting that Davros is like, nah, I'm not actually going to take control of these Daleks because the Emperor will be pissed off. With that little kind of hint at the end, it's just like, it'd be bad for you, sort of thing.
Roberto. That's the one, yeah. I had to look it up.
Yeah, like
I had a feeling somebody was looking it up.
I guess like with this one, I'm more like just kind of okay. Let's see where they're going with this, rather than the first one. But yeah, that's about it.
All right. Matt, I believe, is what's left. Yep.
Yep. Animation quality pretty much the same as last time. The Daleks have pretty smooth, decently done animations. They have some decently made sets for their interiors on the ship. Not a lot of location, but they did add a sand planet for this one before going into the cave and then picking up the Dalek army. The new robot was interesting and a little bit weird, and I actually did enjoy the plot twists on this one. They weren't immediately guessable, I guess would be the word for it. So I'd like to know what on earth they're planning to do next, because they seem to, for a group of Daleks that I assume are supposed to survive everything they're doing right now, because they're supposed to get back on to doing whatever invasions they're planning on doing. I have to say they wrote them into quite the corner, because the thing was literally ripping apart their planet before they had to flee it.
Well, Scarro's been destroyed so many times.
Yeah, I'm not saying that
It's
Scarro's not going
Titanium
to come back,
planets.
but I will say it's very strange to have them on such a level of being backheeled. And literally, they're down to one ship, I think, at this point. So what on earth are they planning to do next? I have no idea.
I'm wondering if this thing is basically the origin of the Nightmare Child.
Not sure. We'll have
Could
to
be.
wait
I
and
don't
see.
think they've ever explained what that was.
No. Just that in the early part of the war, Davros' ship was flung into it, so. And was saved, and he was saved at the last minute by, Dalek Khan. So, yeah, it's possible. As for my opinion, the animation's the same quality, but it didn't annoy me as much in this episode as it did in the last episode. The writing was interesting, but still didn't make a lot of sense to me. You're in the middle of a giant war, and yet you have an entire planet of Daleks that are just chilling on ice. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Characters were interesting. Like I said, they did have kind of a Star Wars-y feel. And yeah, they're definitely hinting that the strategist is Davros. I can't wait to see where that goes. Anyway, so that's our thoughts on that. I mean, if we decide to rate this, we'll probably rate it after the entire thing comes out, since it's essentially
Yeah,
a
I would rate it as like one collective story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's a normal old school multi-parter.
Yeah.
Do we know it's not supposed to be a lot of parts, right?
No,
It's
it's
supposed to be
not.
like 5 or something.
It's only 5.
Yeah. So we've got 3 more of these. The next one.
So maybe we should assume that the week after the last one is when we get our next episode of Doctor Who, since BBC doesn't want to tell us.
Something like that, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. We'll see.
Anyway.
We'll know probably by the beginning of this next month.
Anyway, the BBC has announced the next collection scheduled for Blu-ray release, which is Season 8. That's Katie Manning's first season as Jo Grant, and the season that introduces the Master. They did this with a little trailer that had the return of the Autons, which didn't make a lot of sense to me, as the Doctor Who had the return of the Autons way back in 2005, so... But they're just doing this to try to sell sets, so...
Yeah.
There you go.
It's another one of their little short bits that they're doing to help promote this new season set.
Yep.
I guess if they wanted to do one that was just really quick, they could have even just had... I guess you can't use any of the either of the old Who Masters, because they're not there. But it would have been kind of interesting if they'd had Sacha Dhawan show up.
Yeah,
and just say he's the Master, and she's just like, oh shit.
Yeah, the thing is, I think these are being made by BBC Worldwide instead of BBC Wales, so...
A
little iffy on the licensing.
Yeah. Anyway, Big Finish has a new release this week. That is the 10th Doctor and Rivered Song with David Tennant and Alex Kingston. Yay. Also, free this week is the Companion Chronicles, The Three Companions Polly story. That's one story out of the 3 set. And that is all the news we have this week. Moving on to Geek Talk.
Okay, so the first one is the latest season of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You might remember that I caught up with the show right around the time that this episode was airing, but I had to wait for it to get on Netflix to actually watch the latest season, which it did, I believe, end of last month. So I just took a little time to watch it all. So in a previous season, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. crew spent a season in the future. This season kind of balances the scales by being set in the past, but it's not quite a one setting. It's actually, if I were to describe it very briefly, it would be Legends of Tomorrow, Dark and Gritty. By which I mean it's still the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spy show feel, but it's essentially they're fighting against aliens who are trying to go back in time and sabotage history to prevent their invasion from being stopped. So the first episode I mentioned to you guys off in our group chat that it kind of felt like a cross between Genesis of the Daleks and Terminator. In that well, I don't want to spoil too much for anybody going to see it, but they do realize that they're not a huge fan of the person whose life they end up needing to Sarah Connor. Throughout the rest of the season, they kind of go through short jumps in time that they can't really control because they're kind of linked to the alien ships, including what seemed at first to be a cameo from a major character from the Peggy Carter spinoff, and he actually ends up staying on as a regular for the end of the season. This is officially the last season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it does kind of end on a high note. It makes more sense if you've seen Avengers Endgame, but it's not required. It's just they kind of reference some of the same concepts that make more sense if you've seen the movie where they were explained. But again, not really required. They're pretty much separate by this point. And I think, it's a solid ending. One of the better seasons of the show, I think, and it references a lot of the history of the show as well as ending on an ending upbeat despite having some dark moments. Oh, and it references a lot of pop culture. The Terminator references, I think, the Terminator similarities were probably intentional. There's definitely some references to 80s movies that I caught, as well as probably others that I didn't catch. So,
Oh,
like,
I can call one that you haven't voiced by name yet, Bill. Hopping from time frame to time frame in the past. Quantum Leap.
see that I haven't watched.
Oh, dude, that was my mom's favorite show when I was growing up. I had to watch.
But part of the reason that Legends of Tomorrow came to mind was the way that they were the way there were references baked in, including actually there's a pretty funny and A-Team's reference in there as well. So yeah, it's a very interesting season, and I highly recommend it if you're any fan of time travel shows at all. Which obviously everyone hopefully everyone here is. If not, why are you here?
All right. So, right after our podcast last week, almost 24 hours later, was the premiere of the 2020 version of Animaniacs, a reboot of the cartoon from the early 90s or mid-90s, or now 93. Yes, the Warner Brothers and their sister Dot are at it again for 13 more episodes, along with Pinky and the Brain. The good news is that these are very faithful. Well, I wouldn't even say they're reimagining. These are the Animaniacs. The same voice actors, the same shtick, just, freaking 20 years later.
Mhm.
The animation has changed slightly, but not bad. It's just been smoothed a little and redone to be done in a modern animation format, i.e. Flash. But for Flash, it still looks pretty damn good.
Mm.
The episodes are funny. It's basically like the same stuff they did, only more modern, so they can make modern references. But there is something lacking in this new show. Animaniacs in the 90s was very much an ensemble show.
Mhm.
You had the Warner Brothers and their sister Dot. You had Pinky and the Brain. You had the Good Feathers, Slappy Squirrel, Buttons and Mindy, Rita and Runt, etc.
Mhm.
Mime Time, Good Idea, Bad Idea, all these other things. The new show has the Warner Brothers and their sister Dot and Pinky and the Brain, and that's pretty much it.
Boo. Not even Chicken Boo.
Chicken Boo has one episode,
Lame.
and it's one that they do together with the Warners, so it's not like
It's not even
like it's all.
standalone then. Yeah, that's super
Right.
lame. Come on.
I think I saw something about them possibly bringing in other cast as it goes on, but I don't know if that was based on something the crew had said about like waiting to see how successful it was, or if that was just literally somebody's speculation.
Even the studio cast from the 90s doesn't make much of an appearance. Thaddeus Plotz is gone. He was the CEO of Warner Brothers. Ralph the Guard makes a few appearances.
Oh, at least somebody's
And
there.
Dr. Scratch and Sniff is in a total of one episode.
Oof. First of all, he needs
And
to be in more episodes. Second of all,
and
I've also heard there's no Hello Nurse.
correct. They make a reference to her, but she never appears.
Lame. It kind of feels like the show got a little teethless in its time off.
Well, a good chunk of that is they don't have the voice actor budget that they had back in the 90s. Back when Disney was dominating television with the Disney Afternoon, and basically Tiny Toons and Warner Brothers was brought forth to directly compete with Disney's new dominance. So both of these studios were throwing all their money at these shows, directly fighting for, head of the head of the afternoons and head of Saturday morning.
Funny thing about back then, I didn't realize when I was watching Animaniacs in the early 2000s that it was all, I don't know if syndication's the right word, but it was all reruns. I thought
Yep.
that they were coming out new at that time. It
No,
wasn't until they mentioned that this ended in the 90s that I went back and checked.
Yeah,
mind you,
ended
it
in the
had
90s.
just stopped in as of 2000. The last episode I think was made in 98.
Yeah.
So it's just that you might not have been aware that that they had stopped production.
Yeah, I think what you caught, Bill, is probably the wave that came back to like Cartoon Network or other side shows.
But
I think, yeah, either way.
I forget which channel for sure, but I know one channel just happened to pick up reruns on them for a while.
But
I'll admit, in those years, I mainly went back and forth between Fox and WB channels.
ahem. Getting back to my review while the clock is running. The major problem with the lack of an ensemble cast is it gets boring. Every episode is a Warner Brothers feature, followed by a Pinky and the Brain feature, followed by a Warner Brothers short.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's basically the same thing every time. Even if it's a new story, you're just like, oh, don't they have something else? And I think they tried to do one other character one time, and it wasn't that amusing. So, The original stuff is not as good as the 90s, and while the Warner Brothers and Pinky and the Brain are good, but you probably don't want to try to eat them all in one bite.
Yeah, that's the thing that we learned from the Pinky and the Brain show. You
Yeah.
can't have an overwhelming amount of this, otherwise you start to tire.
I don't know. Pinky and the Brain lasted for like 3 seasons on its own.
It lasted for 3 seasons, but the apparently the numbers dropped like a rock between seasons.
I mean, wasn't the last one even the people behind the show were kind of shitting on it, like the idea of like when it became Pinky Elmira and the
Oh,
Brain?
God,
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
they added Elmira basically to have something new, and then the entire show basically became about, like how much can we complain about / try to avoid Elmira.
I never liked Elmira in Tiny Toons, so when they decided to add her to that, I was just like, nope.
But yeah. Fun
Yeah,
folks.
it's just something to watch in small doses. It does give you the nostalgia feel, and there are laughs, but really, unless they get more of an ensemble cast, it's not going to be something I'd like to watch regularly.
Yeah.
All right, video games. I've been playing a lot of video games. Now, these are first looks as I've gotten them only within the last few weeks. I haven't beaten any of them. This is just my first opinion based on my play. The first one is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which came out by Ubisoft. I'm playing it on the PS4. I like it from what I've played thus far. I haven't gotten very far in the story because I'm running around doing side stuff and getting loot, but that's kind of an Assassin's Creed game for you. Some of the new side quests and stuff are really interesting. One of the more interesting thing is that you can go and do flight battles. If you know what flighting is, think of epic rap battles, but with poetry. You're basically dissing each other in rhyme. And I find that to be kind of an interesting system that they have. It was something the Vikings did.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool. Your character's interesting enough. He doesn't have the lack of charisma that some Assassin's Creed characters have had. But, at one point he's a bloodthirsty raider, and then, he turns around and he helps a family deal with a problem that isn't a Viking family. So I'm like, wow, he's kind of bipolar.
Oh, side quests.
Oh, side quests. It's still interesting, and I'm still learning it, but it's interesting enough for me to keep playing. I'll tell you that. The other game I'm playing at the moment is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. That came out November 20th. It's by Koei Tecmo, licensed by Nintendo and for the Nintendo Switch. If any of you have played The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, this is functionally a prequel. It tells the story of the original Calamity that was 100 years ago in Breath of the Wild. And it's doing it using the Warriors system, i.e. Dynasty Warriors, etc. This game is really engaging. Of course, playing a character like Link and going up against, a dozen bokoblins or more, killing them in the hundreds, and doing special techniques is interesting. Adding in the divine beasts from Breath of the Wild, and wow, it gets kind of amazing. Thus far, I've unlocked 8 characters to play. And I've gotten, I think, about 3 or 4 chapters into the game. It's definitely fun. And thus far, this game has outsold any other Warriors game that's come out. It blew through everything. And it's definitely a blast. If you're a Zelda fan, you have to play it. If you're a Warriors fan, you have to play it. And then you're probably going to want to play Zelda after it because you want to hear the rest of the story. So it's definitely a fun play. I highly recommend this one to anybody that likes those kind of games. But it's Nintendo Switch only, so there you go.
There you are. All right. And the next one is me. So last week I did Majesty 1. Majesty 2. So off the bat, for this one, there's a lot of similarities, and these games, I believe, were released 5 years or more apart. There's definitely a graphical overhaul that has happened between these two games, so it does look nicer. They actually share a few of the same voice actors, so some units still sound relatively the same, so there's a bit of a similar feel between the two of them. That being said, I got 7 hours into this one, which, funny enough, I looked back and found out that I got 7 hours into the first one as well, and that was just doing the beginner's levels. On this one, you get out of the beginner stuff really quickly, and you start to progress into harder and harder stuff. There's moments of a challenge, but it wasn't getting too hard until the last mission I was on. So the last mission I was on for Majesty's 2, the basic setup is, oh, there's this dragon in the area. You have to go defeat it. You'll have to summon up all your heroes and try to figure out a way to stop him. What the game doesn't tell you is that within less than half a minute to a minute of being into this level, there are all monsters have these little dens that they can spawn in. Some of them will pop up as your city gets bigger and they're permanent, but you can place towers and stuff next to them, and the towers and their guards will help root those monsters and they won't be a threat for your city. Then there's the ones that happen naturally on the map that are actually been pre-placed there, and you can go out and destroy them. There's gotta be at least 5 or 6 spawners for little mini dragons who will immediately after they're spawned set off to head straight for your city, which doesn't have a single defense ready, and just start ripping you apart. It's not even the problem of the AI, although I did have a moment where my AI was within 5 feet of the dragon and just walked by like he wasn't even there. Literally just the image of a archer walking off into the woods as the entire village goes up in flames behind him like nothing's happening. Yeah, that was the moment where I just finally lost it with this game. I don't know what it is with the Majesty games in particular, but wow, does their AI have an issue. And I was also so infuriated because I'm like, how on earth could this level force this on me? What on earth is going on with this level that I can't figure out how to get through it? And I started to look through to see if there was any Majesty 2 bugs. Lo and behold, when they released this on Steam, the company that released it also released a patch into it. I don't know how long ago, but apparently this isn't a recent patch, and they haven't fixed the bugs of those patch. And that patch in particular apparently broke a lot of spawners and made things rapid fire produce things and way too fast, and sometimes their AI would immediately lock onto your town and start attacking. So basically, the game's broken because they patched it, and they haven't unpatched it. That's pretty much just ruined the entire Majesty franchise for me. I would say that the reason I got into these games is because I finally bought the first one recently. I've been collecting a couple of these games scattershot for a few years now, but now that I have all of them, I wanted to start trying playing them. Apparently, I'm not a fan of the first 2 games. I have started playing the third one called Warlock. Warlock is interesting, and the main reason is Randy, in particular, has seen my luck in Civilization games. 4X games, at least in particular Civilization, love to just let me progress for maybe about an hour, hour and a half. Maybe I can squeeze 2 hours out of a game, and then all of a sudden everybody turns on me and I become the victim of just the entire AI mobbing me. Warlock is very much a Civilization game like that, with a Majesty skin on it. I am 17 hours into this game. Actually, no, let me double check that. I don't think it was 17. Maybe it was 12. But somewhere in the teens. I'm somewhere in the teens in hours of playing Warlock, and I'm enjoying it more than any of the Majesty games, and I enjoy it more than Civilization, which is really weird. There's
I
currently,
still think you need to give Civilization another go because you only tried it like twice.
dude, I've tried it dozens of times before that once with you. I've tried it dozens of times, and what you witnessed is what happens to me every time I play. Every time. As far back as freaking Civilization 2. Every time. However, again, I'm playing Warlock. I am actually allied with one of my adversaries, and the other two adversaries can't stop picking fights because they're such stupid AIs. So me and my partner are just going, ah, and we've been slowly amassing an army to go in there and ruffle stomp them. As a matter of fact, I just got a quest to actually take out one of their cities, and if I finish the quest, I get extra gold and a couple of other things to help advance my army and my city building. So, as far as I'm concerned, the Majesty games, they're apparently really terrible in my opinion, and I'm a strategy game lover. Ugh, I can't stand the Majesty games. But Warlock, I'm ready for more Warlock, and I think I have the base game of Warlock too, so I'll be looking into that eventually. I want to actually get through a few games of Warlock, though. We'll see how that goes.
All right. So I think that's the end of Geek Talk.
Yep.
Moving forward, we are at the episode summary, I think,
Yep.
and I believe it is my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Go ahead and give me a countdown.
All right. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So this episode starts at basically a lighthouse in the middle of nowhere, where a young man up at the top of the lighthouse with a telescope is basically watching a big pink ball descend into the ocean, not far from where he is. He marks this as being unusual, tries to show it to one of the other lighthouse keepers, who basically doesn't see anything and just summarily dismisses it. They go down, discuss things, and then are called back up because there's a huge fog going on. One of the other people, as they're checking this, the light in the lighthouse fails, and the engineer has to go down and try to fix the electric lights. He is then attacked by a something, as we cut to the TARDIS materializing not far from the lighthouse, noticing the light is out, and the Doctor and Leela decide to go over and investigate. They go up into the lighthouse, they meet the other people, they just basically state that their ship landed on the far shore. They're given a little soup, talk, and when the light goes out again, the Doctor goes down to examine the generator and discovers the dead engineer. This makes the head lighthouse keeper suspicious because he thinks that these two might be spies. This goes on for a bit until a ship eventually appears on the horizon, and despite their best efforts, crashes into the shore. The doctor and the remaining two lighthouse guys go down to help fish people out, and they are brought up. A total of 4 people, isn't it?
Maybe
3 people from the boat.
3 at first.
Additionally,
There's
4th
there's
eventually.
3 people at first, but yeah, the 4th eventually shows up. So it's a total of 4 people. One of which is oh God, what is his name? Because I just think of him as asshole. Lord Palmerdale. there is in his secretary Adelaide, a colonel by the name of Skinsail, which is a wonderful name. And eventually they're joined by one of the ship's crew, Harker. Palmerdale is in a very much hurry to get to London, and eventually we discover out that's because Skinsail has basically sold him political secrets, which he is going to use in the London stock market to make a fortune. He's already rich, so why he needs this, we don't know. He's just a greedy asshole. However, at this point, the Doctor realizes that they're basically being set upon by a creature from outer space. He tries to seal everything up as best he can, but eventually, unfortunately, the head lighthouse keeper, a man by the name of Reuben, is taken over by the creature, disappears for a while, and eventually murders Lord Palmerdale and throws him over the edge of the lighthouse. This doesn't help things, as slowly he picks off the rest of these people one by one until they are down to basically the Doctor, Leela, and Skinsail. The Doctor then eventually has a conversation with Reuben and discovers that he is actually a Rutan, a race of basically interstellar jellyfish that have been at war with the Santarans for like an eternity. And they want to use Earth as a new base. And since that'll involve wiping out humanity, they don't care. Well, the Doctor takes issue with this, uses some of the gunpowder at the top of the lighthouse to set the Rutan on fire, which causes it to retreat. They eventually hit it with a mortar, and the Doctor and Skinsail swipe a diamond from the body of Lord Palmerdale to turn the lighthouse light into a giant laser, which takes out the mothership. Unfortunately, Skinsail is killed in the process, leaving Doctor and Leela the only survivors, and they slip off into the TARDIS before things happen. Unfortunately, Leela is caught in the laser blast. I mean, not directly, but from the flash of it, burns her eyes, changing them to blue. The end.
You got it exactly at 5 minutes, 10 seconds.
10 seconds over. Damn it.
10 seconds.
10 fucking seconds.
Did you subtract time for trying to figure out if there were 4 or 3 people?
I can't do that. We don't normally do that for when I have problem too. I have problems with names. You guys never stop the clock for me.
Mm-hmm. No, but that's why if I know the name, I try to answer for you, so you're not trying to figure it out.
Nah.
Yeah,
This is why I rely on nicknames.
The problem is that a lot of the characters' names are completely forgettable, like Palmerdale.
Yes.
Fuck cares that he's
They're-
Lord Palmerdale. He's Lord Dickwad.
Lord Douche.
Yeah.
They seem like names if you pick up a white pages from the wealthy part of London, close your eyes and point at a name.
Mm-hmm.
Lord Douche, Screaming Lady, and the Colonel.
Lord Douche Nozzle, Colonel Sellout, and Secretary Faints a Lot.
No,
And
screams
the
a
red
lot,
shirt.
faints once.
And the red shirt.
Oh yeah, and the red shirt, the ship crew red shirt.
Yep. Okay. So, what we liked about the episode, Bill, you're first.
Yes, so I made sure to jot something down since I knew who was going first. So, I liked the structure of the episode in before the Rutan was introduced. So the literally the only thing I remembered going into this episode was, well, I guess 2 things. One was that it was a historical, and 2 that there was a Rutan in it. But I was a little surprised by how late it took for the Rutan to be introduced, and I liked that they managed to kind of still have a functional story without it relying on the Rutan. Because so many Doctor Who episodes, it's basically, here's the alien, now we need to beat the alien, and that's the entire majority of the plot. So I liked how we had these whole 2 episodes to build up the tension, and the even though they knew there were supernatural things going on, but the semi-murder mystery of it to let that have breathing room before introducing the alien that they would spend the rest of the time trying to kill.
All right. Thomas?
I guess just for the most part, I liked this little cast of characters that we had. Just like something about it just was like, yeah, you know, this was the sort of thing that I liked, I guess. It was like just very British of their time characters, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can deal with this for 4 episodes. This is quite fun to watch. And I guess generally writing wise as well, it just at no point did I necessarily see myself picking all that much apart. I mean, there was some bits where I'm like, oh, do we really have to do this? But not that often.
All right, Matt?
I like the general horror themes of this particular episode. The fact that that we eventually figured out that everyone's completely isolated out in this. Everyone has to survive if they can. Everyone here is on their own basically to figure out what's going on and how to actually avoid getting murdered by this creature, and they don't even know what it is at first. We don't even know what it is until the last episode. We get little glimpses of it. There's little hints of what it can do, but we never actually know what it is. The fact that the set is nice and claustrophobic, also channeling some of the good elements of horror. Another good element is keeping a lot of the goings on in the dark for most of it until there's a couple of special effects shots here and there, and then we finally get to see a little bit of what the creature is and what it's about. Yeah, just a general sense of terror for a little low-budget 70s show. They did quite nicely for the most part.
All right. And I'm going to have to pass. Because I swear to God, each of you hit the ones I was going to hit right in order.
Well, there's always the easy one on the acting.
Yeah, the thing is, I actually wasn't that thrilled with Tom Baker and Leela in this. They just seemed that Leela seemed a little off. Tom Baker was okay, but not outstanding. Anyway, so what did we not like about this?
At all, but okay.
So while I thought the Rutan as a shape-shifting Centauran enemy was really an interesting idea for the episode, I thought the execution was terrible. Particularly the visual appearance of it.
And you've just hit my one issue with this too.
We were talking about this before we started streaming, but one, it's not really a functional enemy once it transforms to its basic form. Two, how is it even an interstellar alien? And yeah, I think it should have just transformed into some sort of form. Hell, how many times in sci-fi, either in TV or movies, does an alien that should normally be walking around looking like an alien just walk around as a human because it's cheaper for the makeup department? This is the episode where that would make sense to do it.
Well, I'm not going to get into that right now. This is your thing.
I mean, that's pretty much all I had to say on it. So
yeah, but it's Thomas after Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like the only thing I can really think of is that the woman in the group of the people that they catch, while even on a rewatch I was like, okay, yeah, this is very like of the like fits the time period this is set, and we have Leela to offset it. But even then it was still like some of her like whiny attitude got like a bit much. Just like kind of went like a bit far with it to the point that it did kind of slip into being a bit too annoying.
All right. Well, still, I mean, it's a Victorian Edwardian female. Yeah.
Yeah, they suffered a lot of issues.
I mean, and I think her main thing was shock at a close acquaintance's death, right?
At seeing death, yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing death
Yeah.
of someone she knew, yeah.
Any tension at all seemed to set her off.
Also the fact that she might have actually been she might have been a little more than just a secretary, if you get my
Yeah.
if you get my feeling. She was probably Lord Palmerdale's piece on the side. His
Possibly.
mistress.
Although they never say it specifically.
Mm-hmm. So that being that she was possibly intimate with Palmerdale, and then seeing him dead, that would have thrown her into shock, and she was mostly just shock hysteric. Matt?
Now, I mentioned before I liked most of the horror trappings that are in this episode. They went a little too extreme on one of them, though. I understand the assholes dying and maybe one or two of the good characters dying. They didn't need to literally kill everybody but Leela and the Doctor.
This it actually is the last time that everybody dies but the Doctor and his companion until the reboot series.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought there was
obviously there was a backlash, I assume.
I thought there was a Seventh Doctor story where that happened.
No, just
No?
a lot of people died.
A lot of people died, not everybody.
Even Revelation of the Daleks?
Yeah, Revelation of the Daleks, there were still people alive.
There's a couple of the humans on Earth still survived. And
most of Chunky Gilmore's squad survived. At least the main ones.
mm-hmm.
You know, the unit predecessors.
That's Remembrance.
Oh wait,
that's the
Revelation.
wrong one.
Revelation is Fifth Doctor.
Fifth.
Yeah, there's
unless I have it wrong, but I think it's
there's still a couple people still alive on the planet.
Damn you, our trilogy.
Most of the main characters are dead, but still the secondary people are still there.
Yeah.
Honestly, I forget if Diamanda Hagen made the joke for this specifically, but it just reminds me of a thing she did once where it was like, just this once, Rose, everybody dies.
Yeah, it's actually not that. The next time we see one where every other character dies is the Doctor's wife, actually.
That's true, actually. Yeah, the TARDIS's body dies, the people that were involved die, the thing that was trying to take over the TARDIS dies. Only the Doctor and companions.
Yep.
I guess it depends who you count, because a hell of a lot of humans that are trying to solve the problem die in Aliens of London.
Yeah, but there's still people there.
In London.
It's mostly just the unit guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mostly the unit people die, and a couple of others. A lot of side characters die, but not all of the main characters die.
Yep. So that was yours, Matt? Was it Tom?
Yeah, that was mine. That was just everyone getting murdered.
Yeah, I have to double up on Bill on this. The freaking jellyfish is the most ridiculous alien.
See, I didn't mind the visage of it. I like the look of it, but the fact that they tried to overuse it, especially when it's trying to move, is where it starts to hit a you didn't think this through moment.
The practicality of it. Yeah, it could barely move.
The thing is, it's supposed to be a shapeshifter, and I think they just really didn't have the budget to actually make it a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the look of it I don't mind. It's the fact that it's supposed to be having these extra powers, which it never uses when it needs to.
It just feels like a waste of time.
Also, that's right. This is something that I thought of the first time I watched this episode. Why is it that a race of shapeshifters can't beat the race of potato clones?
I think you just answered your own question.
I mean, I feel like they're brought up again at some point after this.
They're still brought up frequently. Every time the Suntards are, they're still at war.
Yeah, the Santarans and the Rutans have been at war for millions of years.
Apparently the Rutans were on a back heel at this point, but apparently they must have gotten back in there and started kicking ass.
They rally. Eventually the Santarans are on the back heel, and then the Santarans rally. It's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
And they try to gain footholds in extra places like Earth, and every time they try and do it, they get fended off.
and the Doctor doesn't bother to help either side, because as long as they're
fighting, they're equalized.
As long as they're fighting, they're not terrorizing the rest of the universe. I mean, let's face it, the Santarans, without having to deal with the Rutans, would probably be as bad as the Daleks.
Just about.
Anyway, favorite scene. Bill.
My favorite scene is the one in which Leela is threatening to cut people's hearts out, and the Doctor is too focused on the problem to scold her, and he's just like, I'm going to let Leela be Leela for today.
It's getting results with this one right now.
Right,
he'll allow some threats as long as it gets results in the right direction.
Leela can have little of threats as a treat.
She's been a good girl most of this episode.
All right, Thomas.
I guess keeping a bit of a Leela moment, like just I forget which episode it's in, but it's like they talk about how another person's dead. It might be when it's like revealed that the douchebag's dead, and the woman screams, and Leela just immediately slaps her.
She slapped.
It worked.
Yeah.
This is why I love Leela this episode. She's having this business. So that was your scene, Thomas?
Yeah.
My scene, Leela says they have to go up and defend themselves. The woman feigns immediately close up on Leela as she sighs and rolls her eyes.
Yes. And keeping with this theme, my favorite scene is early on in the serial, where Leela's down in the room talking with the young lighthouse keeper, and he's just like, "I'll get some clothes for you," and Leela immediately just starts stripping off, and the young man's like, "Nope."
The guy's like, I don't think we have any clothes for you. It's all a bunch of men's clothes. Immediately looks over to see her halfway out of her dress. He's just like, I'll get you some clothes. And he averts his eyes as he tries to make his way out of the room.
And it's funny because like it didn't occur to me until the rewatch, and like right after it where I paid attention to that, was like, yeah, it would make sense that Leela would have no hang-ups.
No,
she would have zero hang-ups because she's still that wild tomboy that she is, and
I'm sure
she gets into a guy's outfit and she's immediately more at home.
I'm sure she has an entire leather bikini on underneath that.
Possibly.
It's actually not in this serial. They were originally planning on retiring the leather bikini.
Well, we're not talking about the full outfit. We're talking about what she might have for regular undergarment, but whatever.
Well, no, I was basically saying that she was probably fully dressed in her mentality underneath the.
I kind of doubt that. You can't have that full outfit underneath that too. You'd have to have a little less. Than that.
Yeah. You couldn't have the leather bikini over the Victorian corset or whatever the hell she was wearing.
And all that stuff. Yeah, that'd be a little too clunky.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure though she's just from a tribal people, so she just doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's functionality over, modesty.
Yeah. She wants to be able to breathe and move.
But then Mr. Victorian senses there is just like, nope.
I liked how she still had a full neck to ankle dress on, and he's still like, must have hurt my eyes, cannot see whatever she just took off.
She literally just took out the outside of the dress.
I might see her ankle. Oh God, no! Freaking Victorian era.
Oh God, not the ankles. Full on cleavage.
That reminds me. I was going to ask if anyone had any fact checks, and I didn't.
I checked for fact checks and everything checked.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, could you imagine if he had met Perry? Okay.
The boy would be blushing more than if a sailor was constantly cursing at him.
All right. Least favorite scene.
Oh yes. So the scene where I cannot stand hearing you talk about obviously evil Lord Fuckerdale. I am so upset. I'm going to leave the room, and I'm shut up. Like
No. Bill, get names right. It's Lord Douche Nozzle.
I was just like, seriously, you're like that scandalized by the fact that this guy who clearly
That's why I'm thinking that she was his mistress.
right?
She's a little too attached at the hip.
Yep. Thomas.
I guess as much as it sort of fit the character he was, the old dude going after the diamonds when the fucking Rootin is coming towards him, it's like just run, just leave them. And he goes for him and he dies, and it's like, you fucking idiot.
You got killed by the creeping terror.
You know, I will talk about that scene again in a moment because I will second that, but I'm going to tell you why. So, Matt, you go first.
Sure. You know what? I have a scene that could have worked really well, but it was ruined. There's some wonky special effects on the outside of the lighthouse. There's a couple of scenes that get a quick glimpse on the outside of the lighthouse. One of which is Lord Douche Nozzle sitting on the top balcony, waiting for the doctor to go back down because he's hiding. And the creature is coming up the side of the building to go and get him. Now, the actual on-set part looks really nicely done, lighting and everything, and you just see him suddenly get grabbed by a tentacle as he's shocked into silence. The problem is that before we do this, we see that outside the tower, unusually brightly lit with a very noticeably action figure-y looking version of the monster slowly sliding up the tower towards him. It's almost too silly to take. If they would have just cut out that business of seeing the thing climb up the tower and just kept the creepy mood lighting and stuff, it would have been perfect. They kind of ruined it for themselves on that one, and kind of trying to ruin the mystery of the creature too at the same time.
All right. So I'm going to piggyback off of Thomas's scene because there's a bit where the doctor goes up and Leela asks what happened to Skin Sale, and the doctor goes, dead with honor. Now, what's honorable about diving for diamonds while the creature wraps itself around your neck and kills you?
Yeah. I have to assume it's obviously him lying, really. Just to like reassure Leela or something, and just be like, oh no, he died, lying that he's died to save the doctor time, to give the doctor time or something, rather than just saying, oh, he was an idiot and he did.
Here's the thing.
Went for the diamond.
Tom Baker did that line under duress. He wanted it taken out. He wanted to just say dead. But the director refused to let him. He was supposed to say dead, pause, with honor. Instead, he just kind of goes dead with honor. He just belts it out and goes on with zero enthusiasm because he didn't like the line.
I totally agree with him.
Oh, yeah, that line shouldn't be there. It should just be dead. But that was why I was piggybacking, so I could tell that anecdote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree with Tom. Tom had the right notion on that one, sadly.
Yep.
Should have known better, writers.
Final thoughts, Bill.
So if this was an episode that hinged entirely around the alien threat on screen, I think that would have quite tanked the episode, or at least done a good way toward it. However, because the episode was given some breathing room, and the alien is not there all the time, I think that gives it a lot more leeway for the lackluster presented alien. I still don't think it's by any means a great episode, but I don't think it's awful either. There's definitely some enjoyable things about it, but it's probably not the best presentation of Leela and the Fourth Doctor either. So it comes across very middle of the road, I think.
All right. Thomas?
Funnily enough, the first time I watched this through, I had the exact opposite reaction of I felt like, I mean, I don't know, maybe I just had too much Coke to drink or something, so I was just hyped up. But I was like very engrossed into this story the entire way through, which kind of surprised me. I mean, I do usually seem to like stuff Terrence Dicks wrote, but you know, it's still can be hit or miss. But yeah, I very much enjoyed the hell out of this, and would recommend that people check it out. I mean, I could see why people wouldn't like it as much, but this very quickly, and you know, my opinion could change with further watching. I've only seen it the twice, but issues here and there I have with it aside that are fairly nitpicky to me. This has fast become one of my favorite Tom Baker stories that I've seen, which I I add that caveat because I've not seen a ton of Tom Baker, so that could change.
We'll be watching more in the coming weeks.
Yep.
Mhm.
Matt?
I have to also agree with Thomas that I really like the heck out of this episode. This is my third time through this one, I think. At the very least, the second time for sure. Um, yeah, there's not quite the usual chemistry with Tom and Leela, but I still feel like there's enough of it there that I'm perfectly fine with it. It's making room for the fact that we have all these other characters that we're trying to get to know in the amount of time that we're given. And yeah, the monster doesn't come up perfectly, especially in the last episode, but that's because they were relying too much on this one prop, which couldn't do for them what it needed to do. That's just an issue, and they should have realized that on set and done some extra quick shooting, which they could have done to get around that and add some special effects later, which is totally possible. But given what they've got, I still think this is. I think that my problems with it are maybe minuscule considering the age of this. I have to also consider that as well. And I think for the majority of this, it's a really solidly written episode with really good ideas, and I would like to see maybe an updated version of it, which I guarantee you would be a ton better and be where I would want it to be.
All right. So my opinion on this, um, this was written well. Especially considering the fact that it was a backup idea and was kind of written on the fly. Um, the scenery and setting are wonderful. It gives that wonderful, creepy feeling. The acting is okay. The secondary characters act their hearts out, which I like, but possibly for partially disagreeing with the plot or something, Tom Baker's kind of phoning it in, and Leela seems a little off. Not all the time. There's some great Leela moments, but there's other times where you're like, what is she doing? And that finally you get to the major drawback, and that was the special effect as opposed to the Rootin' creature. Was a colossal disappointment for its finale reveal. All in all, I'd say it's good, but it could have been better. All right, let's rate this. Bill, you're first.
Yeah, and I think the closest thing it can round to is a 3.5.
Whew.
killing me. I did not think there would be such high praise.
Whew, Bill. Ow.
All right. Thomas.
Problems aside, I enjoy this so much that I'm actually going to give it a 5.
Just completely blowing Bill out of the water. Matt?
I want to give it a 5. I really do. But there's still a few little things that bug me just enough, that I want to say that I would like to see an updated version that runs things a little more smoothly. So I have to sadly give it a 4.5.
And we are going to get a gamut of scores here. Because I'm going to give it a 4.0.
If you truly wanted a gamut, you would do a solid and just go lower than me. And
No.
No.
I don't think it deserves a score lower than I gave.
A 3.5, a 4.0, a 4.5, and a 5.0. We're running the range from 3.5 to 5. And that, by the way,
You're
will
still
average...
keeping me as the bottom score.
Oh, yeah, the business as usual. And that, by the way, will average us out to 4 points. Which puts this at number 112 out of 366 things reviewed.
Sorry, that was a 4 point what?
4.3.
3.
Okay.
I thought maybe it was just me that it cut out for a second, but
Nope.
It might be because I was scrolling up and down through the thing. Anyway, it is on par with The Mind of Evil, Empress of Mars, Unicorn and the Wasp, Impossible Planet Satan Pit, Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, Terror of the Autons, Last Christmas, The Rescue, The Unquiet Dead, The 10th Planet, Keys of Marinus, Demons of Punjab, Ark in Space, Waters of Mars, The Witchfinders, and many, many more. It is better than Frontier in Space, Destiny of the Daleks, The Shakespeare Code, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, The Mind Robber, etc., and is not as good as Snake Dance, The Dominators, The War Games, Terror of the Zygons, Husbands of River Song, Father's Day, Edge of Destruction, etc. So there we go. 112 out of 366. That is all we have to say about Horror of Fang Rock.
all right. So please let us know in the comments how you feel about the episode. Did you agree with one of us, or did you disagree with us and think it was actually should have been a 2? And don't forget to like or dislike the video, and of course subscribe to keep getting our new YouTube exports, or to follow us on Twitch to get our new podcast as we stream every Wednesday night.
All right, next week we continue with Tom Baker and season 15 in Image of the Fendel, written by Chris Boucher and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor and Louise Jameson as Leela.
All
See
right.
you next week.
Good night.